I guess we can talk about the Eastern Conference side of things. Then we can jump over to the West because the East is pretty simple to summarize. The Celtics broke out the brooms on the Pacers. The Celtics have been, I mean, they've been dominant this entire playoffs. Their point differential and their record says they're one of the, honestly, more impressive teams of all time, actually. They play with their food. They have a tendency to do that. But, man, you can tell when they want to flip a switch, which they did, and Jaylen Brown helped them do it, ended up being named the most valuable player of the Eastern Conference Finals. They have so much depth. They have so much skill all around. And there's no doubt, whoever they play, they'll probably play the Mavs. They'll be favored once again. But it'll be obviously a different, more formidable opponent in that sense because the Mavs they're going to present an entirely different set of problems for the Celtics. But the Celtics and what they've done, there's no question, it's impressive. They have been the entire regular season and so far through these playoffs, they have been consistently the best team in the NBA from that sense.
Yeah, I mean, they have been a team, and we can say, there is something to be said that, they've gotten a few breaks going their way. Tyrese Halliburton basically playing a game and a half in this series, and then being out is not great. And the Pacers, give them credit, they stuck with it, and we're still fighting in these games, even with Halliburton out, and they're just kind of undermatched anyway against the Celtics team. But, that's part of what you have to do to win a championship is you don't get to pick who you play. You don't get to pick what happens to the injuries or whatever else. So you just got to keep winning. That's what the Celtics have done. It felt like a foregone conclusion that they were going to beat the Pacers anyway. The sweep, I don't know if I was expecting the sweep. I thought maybe the Pacers could get a game. But yeah, once Halliburton went down, it became a little bit more difficult. Jaylen Brown played really well. I think you would have liked to seen Jason Tatum play a little bit better in the series. He wasn't bad, but he just once again didn't command the ball. He was okay being the number 2 to Jaylen Brown, which is a problem this Celtics team has had, which is really the thing that Ime was probably better at than Joe Mazzulla was or Brad Stevens, which was telling Jaylen Brown, pass the ball to Jason Tatum because he's a better basketball player than you are. Like overall, the odds are better if Jason Tatum has it. Jaylen Brown's really good, but it's your 1 and your 2. Jaylen Brown's your 2 in that matchup. But he just wanted to take he wants to prove it, and Jason Tatum doesn't for whatever reason. And I think he does. He just doesn't. I don't know what he just doesn't have the man the ball, and it's frustrating because he's a really good player, and he keeps coming out and acting like he should be the guy. But if you want to be the guy, you have to want the ball, and you have to constantly go out and get the ball and ask for it. And that's what every superstar does in the league. They get the ball, and
Jaylen Brown does it.
Jaylen Brown does. Jason Tatum doesn't.
But you can't have two of this. The irony is you can't have two of those guys.
You can.
But you want your best player to have that.
Yeah, exactly. And so
there's somebody willing to concede, and I think the one that's willing to concede, like even with Kyrie and Luka, it seems like Kyrie is the one that's like, no, I'll concede whatever you need. I'll be whatever you need me to be.
It'll provide an interesting matchup in the finals because I think there is something to be said too. Is people are putting their best defenders on Jason Tatum, and he's he still puts up good points. He still does a lot in the game. He's the best player on the team. But he's just, hasn't been needed to be the superstar yet. And we'll see what that comes up with. The other part you have to look at the Celtics. They didn't get Porzingis into a game, which doesn't let you know if he's going to be back in the finals, if they've just been lying the whole time and he's not healthy enough and he's not playing, or if he is. But now he did get 0 playing time before going into an NBA Finals, even if there's a break. They don't play a game 1 until June 6th.
They got 9 days off.
Yes, because it doesn't matter what the Mavs do. The Mavs just get a break if they win, but if they go 7, they're still starting the game on June 6th. It does not move up if the Mavs win early. So for Boston, that's a good sign that you're going to get some practice time in, and Porzingis, if he can come back.
Unless it was really serious, you would think he'd be. That's a lot of time off. But how much time has he had off already? Right, he's been off.
Yeah,
already,
but again, those are those types of injuries that guys like Porzingis take. Another 3 weeks to get out.
I agree. But I think it's obviously indicating it's a lot more serious than we thought.
And I think it's that part of when you're trying to rehab something, and you have those like soft tissue injuries or just any of those injuries, and you don't want to re-injure it. So every time you kind of start to put pressure back on it and you feel it, the twinge or whatever else, you have to stop again. And so at what point do you say, okay, screw it, it's the NBA Finals, we're going to risk re-injuring it, and I'm just not going to tell the trainers that it hurts, because that's kind of what most of these players do when they fight through things is, no, I'm fine. And you get through and you get a little bit better. I don't know. I mean, we just don't know, because, no one's going to tell you if he's fully healthy or not. You're not going to get that report till after the season. But it would be, if he comes back, it adds another piece to this series. If it was the Mavs, which we don't know yet, but that's that would add a former Maverick he played for this team several years back. He was supposed to be part of that team that they built for Luka with him and Jalen Brunson. That was supposed to be a team that was supposed to go far. So I think it'll be big if he was able to come back. It gives you another scoring threat that just makes it harder and harder to play defense against this team. I don't know if he would even be in the starting lineup. I mean, I guess he would take over for Al Horford again and play that 5 position. But the Celtics right now, they look really good. They have a couple things going for them that they'll match up well with either team because of the versatility of that Boston lineup. But I think that we saw in the Pacers series, they're vulnerable enough that if you were able to be more clutch than them, you have a shot, because they didn't finish off the Pacers early in any of these games. They made a lot of runs, but they didn't finish them off and have the 30-point wins and 20-point wins that they had in the rest of the playoffs.
Yeah, no, they get distracted. There's no doubt about that. Like I said, they have a tendency to play with their food. This was I don't know if you can describe it. It seemed like it was a close sweep, if that makes any sense. Right, 3 of those 4 games down the stretch. The Pacers in the fourth quarter, like down the stretch of the fourth quarter, are in control of the game in 3 of those 4 games. And then we do see the Boston Celtics have a bit of the clutch gene and able to come through and make a big play in clutch time. I think now in that series, remember the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, the Celtics had just 79 seconds of clutch time. That's the game with being within 5 points in the last 5 minutes or in overtime. And in that series against the Pacers, they had 18 total clutch minutes across games 1, 3, and 4. And they obviously, with the sweep, you saw the Celtics step up in clutch time. So we hadn't really seen them tested in clutch time a lot because they've been so dominant this season. They're now, I think, 25-12 in games that were obviously in clutch time, 5 points within the last 5 minutes, 4-0 in the playoffs in those situations. And we said this when the playoffs started.